What is teaching method? Teaching method is a way of teaching a language which is based on the systematic principle and procedures. For example, which is an application of view on how language is best taught and learned. Okay, this is a teaching methodologies based from the Marian Maria book. There are the grammar translation method, the direct method, reading approach, audio-lingualism, oral situation approach, cognitive approach, effective humanistic approach, and the last is comprehension-based approach. But today, I explain to you only 3 teaching methodologies. The first is the grammar translation method or GTM, the second is the direct method, and the last is reading approach. We start from the grammar translation method. What is the GTM? GTM is an extension of the approach used to teach classical languages to the teaching of modern languages. The next is the principal characteristic of GTM. The first is instruction is given in the native language of the student. The second is there is little use of the target language for communication. The third is focusing on grammatical parsing, for example, the form and inflection of words. And the fourth is there is reading of difficult texts. The fifth is a typical exercise is to translate sentences from the target language into the mother tongue or vice versa. The next is the result of this approach is usually an inability on the part of the student to use the language for communication, and the last is the teacher does not have to be able to speak the target language. We move to the direct approach. Direct approach is a reaction to the grammar translation approach and its failure to produce learners who could communicate in the foreign language they had been studying. And this is a principal characteristic. The first is no use of the mother tongue is permitted. For example, the teacher doesn't need to know the student native language. The second is lessons begin with dialogues and anecdotes in modern conversational style. And the third is action and pictures are used to make meanings clear. The next is grammar is learned inductively. And then the fifth, literally, texts are read for pleasure and are not analyzed grammatically. The next is the target culture is also taught inductively. And the last is the teacher must be a native speaker or have native-like proficiency in the target language. The next is reading approach. The definition of reading approach is a reaction to the problem experience. In implementing the direct approach, reading was viewed as the most usable skill to have a foreign language since not many people travel abroad at the time. Also, few teachers could use their foreign language well enough to use a direct approach effectively in class. And then, for the characteristic, there are only the grammar useful for reading comprehension is taught. Vocabulary is controlled at first based on the frequency and usefulness and then expanded. The next is translation is once more a respectable classroom procedure, and then reading comprehension is the only language skill emphasis, and the last is the teacher doesn't need to have a good oral proficiency in the target language.